Salim Ismail, a well-known Silicon Valley serial entrepreneur. I think all entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley are serial, aren't they, Salim?
Could be.
And now, not a new role, an old new role, you are Global Ambassador and the founding Executive Director of the Singularity University, Silicon Valley's. Would it be fair to call Singularity Silicon Valley's first university?
Well, I think Stanford may have some claim on that, but certainly we're the newest.
Stanford, what's that?
Certainly we're the newest.
Salim, I was in Amsterdam last week. I organized a conference about the future of the university, and several of the speakers brought up Singularity University.
Right.
Are you the future? Are you reinventing the university? What are you doing at Singularity that you won't find at conventional universities?
So 2 or 3 things. First, if you think about the concept of the university as we know it, it's about 400 years old, that model. And it's time for an update. And I think we're extending the concept of what a traditional university is. The 3 things that make us unique are we focus uniquely on accelerating and fast-moving technologies. The second thing is we focus on mostly the future. Most traditional academics focus on what happened in the past, right? How did this model evolve? How did this equation develop? We spend about 80% of our curriculum thinking about what will happen in the future. And the third is it's a very active university. We spin out, it's part think tank, part university, part incubator. So at the end of every summer, we spin out NGOs, research initiatives, for-profit companies, all aiming to impact global challenges.
Why the name? Was it founded by Ray Kurzweil?
Yes, the 2 co-founders are Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis from the X Prize. And so the name is inspired by Ray's work. He has spent a lot of time identifying these technologies and which ones are accelerating.
And for prospective students, can you get degrees at traditional degrees, BAs, MAs, PhDs?
No. So we do the heart of our program is a 10-week graduate studies program for graduate students who are typically doing a master's or PhD or have just finished one. Average age is 30. So they've typically built and sold a company, or they're looking to figure out how do they take their education or their career and take it, really explode it to the next level.
How do you get in? How do you apply?
There's an application form. We have 80 slots every summer. It's very competitive. This year we had 2,200 applicants from 109 countries fighting over the 80 slots. And
what kind of courses are available? Do they tend to be entrepreneurial, technological, or futuristic?
Right. So what we do is we focus on, there's 3 categories of disciplines we focus on. The first are about half the courses we teach are on the most accelerating technology. So basically biotech, nanotech, AI, robotics, medicine, computing, energy, all the aspects of those that are all doubling in their price performance anywhere from 18 to 30 months. We also teach entrepreneurship to some extent and policy law and ethics and future studies. How do you think about scenario planning and forecasting some of this stuff? We also deal with energy and space as application areas where you might deploy these technologies.
It sounds like the whole thing came out of the mind of Peter Thiel.
Peter is a small supporter, and he's been very, very active. He comes and speaks now and then, but mostly it's done with Ray and Peter. And actually, Peter Diamandis is the main thrust behind this. It was his idea on a trek in Chile. He'd founded an organization called the International Space University 20 years ago, and we copied that model. And the curricular challenge we faced when we started was these are 10 incredibly broad subject areas. How do you squeeze that into 10 weeks and really deliver any value?
What companies are supporting?
So we are a nonprofit, and we're hosted at NASA Ames. And the initial companies that have helped us fund us are Google, Cisco, Nokia, Autodesk, with all the design thinking that they bring to bear, ePlanet Ventures, etc. And about a dozen Silicon Valley entrepreneurs donated a little bit of money to get it going.
What other notables are involved in the teaching? I know that you get a great teaching faculty. And is it just a summer program, or is it a yearly program?
No, it's a 10-week summer program. So our mandate is that we have global challenges today, the financial crisis or swine flu and pandemics or aspects of climate change that are in their nature accelerating and exponential, right? The spread of a pandemic is exponential, for example.
What do you mean exponential?
Well, if I give it to 2 people, you give it to 4 people, they give it to 8 people, and the spread is dramatic.
So it's viral.
It's viral, and viral is one way of putting it. The power laws that come from that doubling. And human beings don't fundamentally understand this. Our leadership around the world is not able to deal with that type of thinking. The financial crisis is a good example. Our leadership didn't really understand the ripple effects of the acceleration in the the different financial instruments that are out there. And so what we try and do is we bring in the next generation of young leaders, the top young thinkers who will be running the world in the next 10 or 20 years with or without us. And we spend about half the summer giving them about 300 hours of lectures from 160 different speakers on what is the future of biotech, nanotech, robotics, medicine, AI, what's in the labs today, what's being commercialized tomorrow. The second half of the summer, they form teams pivoting around one of the grand challenges, whether it's clean water or home energy or poverty or education. And the job is using these technologies that are inherently accelerating, come up with a product or service that would impact 1 billion people within 10 years.
I just finished a very interesting book called The Third Industrial Revolution by Jeremy Rifkin. Is Singularity an example of a university that exists in this third industrial revolution?
Yes, it is. I'm slightly familiar with the model. It is definitely one of those types of things. We're a hybrid. Right? We layer on top of traditional university thinking, which is siloed and very academic focused, and we take that an action component, a future component, and really focus on the accelerating technologies. The reason we focus on these technologies, A, they're all naturally scaling, and they can scale to a global level. And really the core is that if we don't address some of our global challenges with technology, then we often end up in war. Right? And war is a very expensive way of progressing humanity. I think there are 70 armed conflicts around the world today fighting over clean water.
It's not a very pleasant one either, is it?
It's a difficult environment.
How optimistic are you about the future of the conventional university in the 21st century? Can they survive?
Unless they change fairly drastically, no. Because the siloed thinking doesn't really work it's great for research and it's great for learning, but when you get to the application side, you have to cross over and you have to become very interdisciplinary. Note that all disruptive breakthroughs happen when you cross two very disparate fields together, right? And so what we're creating here is a crucible where we bring together the top thinkers in these fields, really like Nobel Prize winner type level, the global leaders in these areas. We bring those together with the most accomplished and ambitious young students and young leaders in the world, and we teach them about the fastest moving technologies and point them at the biggest problems. Something interesting will happen. So we're now 3 years old and the model is just starting to bite.
Are you worried, though, in America that people don't get it, that they don't understand that the traditional university with its siloed establishment kind of structure and culture is not a very effective tool for making this country more competitive?
I don't think it's just the US. I think it's a global problem. And frankly, the siloed aspect happens more elsewhere in the world. If you look at what Stanford or Harvard or MIT are doing, there's some pretty dramatic new programs focused on interdisciplinary thinking. But if you look at traditional academics anywhere in the world, it's very siloed, right? And so there needs to be a new layer on top of the traditional way of thinking that helps take those traditional academic concepts and really bring them to bear. For example, most tech transfer programs in most universities have been a failure. Right? They've not really been able to take those ideas and basic research and actually implement them out in the field. So we bring our students in and we give them that breakthrough thinking, and then we give them a massive challenge that will blow open any traditional limitations that they might have had in their thinking.
Salim, what's your opinion of Peter Thiel's Fellows program that gives smart young kids money to leave university?
Yeah, I actually think it's a good idea in the sense that those young kids that are so exceptional don't fit in the traditional model anyway, right? And so if you can give them a leg up in a different way and give them a different vehicle to go think about things, it may work very well. So I think it's definitely worth a try. And Peter has some very dramatic thinking in how he approaches the world. For example, one of the observations he's made is our estimates of growth and compound growth rely on exponential technologies. And if we don't have them, the economy may collapse. And so there's some thinking there that's very relevant, and I've found his thinking is usually, like Ray Kurzweil, his thinking is very controversial, but usually correct.
Salim, I know you're about to have your first child. In conclusion, and very briefly, that child will perhaps go to university in 18 or 19 or 20 years. What will the world look like then from an educational point of view?
I think the world will be dramatically different. I think in 3 to 5 years we'll see a complete revamp of how people do education. I think instruments and new mechanisms like the Khan Academy, education has been a push system. You get people together and you push content to them. And it's a several hundred-year-old model in the traditional way. I think it's moving into a pull model, and John Haley has written about this general approach, where if I need something, I can pull that piece of content in. There's no reason why I can't pull in that piece of learning. And so I think we'll end up with very bite-sized, action-oriented educational formats that allow us to take new learning as we need it. The world is changing too quickly today to take, by the time, if I'm in a technology discipline, by the time I finish my degree, my education is out of date. So it's clearly something has to give, and I think we'll see education dramatically change in the next 10 years.
And Salim, what are the results you see coming out of this?
So we are graduating a new generation of leaders, and they are all working on new companies and new ideas. For example, our very first spin-out was Getaround, which won the last TechCrunch Disrupt Cup. And so we're starting to see the model bite. The last one that we spun out took Chris Anderson's idea of DIY drones and thought about poverty in Africa and created a whole new concept called a MatterNet, to use an IP address system analogy to move physical matter in medicine and food around where there are no roads.